Greetings, soldiers. Welcome and are welcome back to Spiritual Arsenal, the podcast where two sisters in truth partake in accountability and spiritual growth rooted in the Word of God. We are not Bible teachers, but we're here to share our journey as we study the scripture and grow in our faith.
This is a space for honest conversations, reflection, and encouragement as we put on the full armor of God and pick up our crosses daily.
Let's dive in.
I think that God calls for mutual honor, for children to obey, and for parents to nurture their children with care. I think that when it says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. I think it's basically talking about that mutual two-way street, that mutual honor in not treating your children as furniture, basically, as furniture or as people that aren't able to understand anything, or treating them as if they're, not smart, or abusing them. Because let's be honest, that's also a real thing where, people are being abusive to children, or abusing their children, or not treating them like the gift of God that they are.
A lot of people, the common saying of like, oh, I keep the lights on and I put food on your table, basically, that you should be grateful. I think no child has stood there in heaven like, hey, bring me down there to the ghetto. I want to come hang out with y'all on earth and wrestle with sin and all of that good stuff. Like, nobody has asked to be born. And so I think, the relationship, or the responsibility in the relationship gets like flipped around sometimes. I mean, right now, if you go online, there's like a very common term. It's called rage bait. And it's like all these videos, like skits showing like moms and dads being like, when like they'll be yelling at you and you don't say anything and they're like, you're not even answering me. And then you try answering and they're like, oh, you're talking back to me now. Like, there's nothing you can do. I think at that point it turns into people get so overwhelmed, I think, with life, and without this compass of how you're supposed to show up and how you're supposed to honor your child as well, people have a hard time. They put themselves in this like superior position where they want to exert control, they want to pacify themselves, they want to do all the things that, like, as a human you crave to do, but they're not constructive, they're actually pretty destructive. And so people give themselves permission to treat their children that way, like the way they wouldn't treat another human being. But like you said, children are human, so if you are not being respected, if you are not being honored, what would be your natural human reaction is to rebel. And we know that rebellion is like one of the favorite tools of the enemy to to work on us. And so I think it leaves an avenue for rebellion. So it's important to be able to catch it in yourself, and know what it looks like and know what brings it about, so that when you have a child that looks like you, acts like you, sounds like you, feels like you, then you're not tempted to suppress them and nitpick and do all these things that will make them rebellious, and then all of you lose in the eyes of the Lord
And everybody else.
and
Everybody else. Because if you want respect but you don't model respect, where's the child supposed to learn respect?
Yep.
Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. I could go on and on, but let's move on to the next scripture.
Moving on.
So 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8 says, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." And it touches on, like, when you were talking about, oh, well, I keep the lights on and I feed you and I put you in school.
Yeah.
You want a trophy? You want a lollipop for that? That's your job.
You're doing what you were supposed to do with having a child.
You're doing your job. And I don't want to sound bratty or ungrateful. I have known to be bratty. It is what it is. I'm aware that I've maybe been spoiled and kind of a little brat, but Jesus still loves me, okay?
Just love that way.
But but I'm just like, when I hear that, that thought process, I'm like, yeah, you brought me. I mean, not you brought me personally into the world, but it's just like, thinking as a child, I didn't ask for this. I did not.
Yeah.
Like, you decided to have the child. Obviously, it's your job to feed them and clothe them, and make sure that they're okay. Like, that's your responsibility. And so I really don't understand that thought process of like, oh, like I keep the lights on around here. Yeah, because if you didn't, they would call CPS on you. They would take you to jail, right to
You go to
jail.
jail. Right to jail. Right to jail.
Right to jail. So I'm just like, yeah, that is your job, sir. That is your job, ma'am. If you decide to have children. Now, I do understand that, like, not everybody wants to be a parent. I do understand that. I don't want to say accidents, because a lot of time children are referred to as accidents, and I don't like that terminology. Um, you knew what you were doing.
That's
You
literally
don't
the
just
only
sip
way that you can
water.
have a child. There's one way to have a child, and that's the way.
Like, you don't just sip water and get pregnant. So yeah,
Yeah.
like, I know I'm not ready for that responsibility, so I actually do just sip water.
Because what are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to do?
I
that's,
literally just sip water and read my Bible. That's
that's
what I
it.
do.
That's
That's
it.
it.
Yeah.
So I understand that human things are gonna happen, but you have to be careful. You have to understand and be ready for the consequences of your actions. Like, I was scrolling on the internet, as I do, and I came across this video of this man who was basically screaming at just who I can only assume is the mother of his child, or his baby mama. And I mean, I kind of feel for the guy, because the person was recording him and put it on the internet. So I kind of feel like he has a point, but he was screaming about how he didn't want to be a dad and he wasn't ready for this, and she trapped him. And in my mind, I was like, bro, what do you mean?
You know what? What?
You
Okay.
participated.
Okay.
Were you not there when the child was conceived? Were you not a participant? Like, you're like a very important participant in the
I'm
making of the
you
child.
literally handed the package over, and you expected her to not deliver it. Like, and I'm
So
not
I'm
saying
like,
that.
eh?
Saying like if you, and it goes back to what you said about like being willing to accept consequences to every action you take. I think that that goes with honor as well. Like being an adult, and like even if you didn't intend, you didn't plan to have a child, and now there's a child that's in the picture, knowing well that you did what you did and you were involved in what you were involved in. I think what you want doesn't matter as much as what you ought to do. I
Mm.
don't think there's a lot there that has to do with what you want. Sometimes I'm talking with people and we're trying to like prepare the deliverable, like how it's supposed to be, and like someone would be like, I don't really like this font, and I'm like, it's not about what you like. It's not about you. It really isn't. It's about getting this thing out the door the way that it was asked to be. You know what I mean? So I think self editing is a lost art, and I think that underpins being able to act with honor is being able to take responsibility. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yes.
So getting back to the topic at hand,
Yes.
caring for your family is not just cultural, it's a spiritual obligation. It's a financial obligation. I would also add spirit. Did I already say spiritual obligation? I don't know, but it's a spiritual obligation. It's a emotional obligation, and if you're not ready to do all those things, if you haven't put in the work and the emotional area, in the spiritual area, financial area on yourself, please don't try to bring other people into the mix. It just is not fair to them or to you.
I think it's also, as I'm looking at the verse, it says, if anyone does not provide for his relatives. And I think even providing and caring for is a very interesting term, because there's so much arguments about what that means. And I think defining that like makes a difference, because, like when I first read this verse, I thought about like extended family members, and family were always like need things from you, want things from you. I don't know if that's a unique experience, but I'm pretty sure it's not. And I think that in the gray area of providing for and caring for family, there needs to be boundaries. There needs to be like, I think everything should be rooted in, is this aligned with what God teaches us? Because, like you said, humans are going to human. And so I think knowing that everything needs to be ran by the final filter of, does this align, with God's will, and does this align with what He's saying? That's very important. Otherwise, you can get sucked into, very unhealthy dynamics, or just things that don't serve the kingdom, don't serve you, don't serve the person, don't honor either of you. So I think that's a very important distinction to make as well, or like definition to have in mind. What does providing mean to me? Like as a father, head of family or whatever, what does my provision need to look like? Because if you're thinking, oh, I provide for my children, I put them in school, and I don't talk about it, but you also, like you said, you don't do emotional provision, you don't do spiritual provision, you're just providing for them physically, then you are missing the mark, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay too.
Um,
You're in the middle of If you're in the middle of, you're about to have a child already, and now, listening or thinking about this, now that there's like emotional work or whatever kind of work that you haven't done. It doesn't mean that, like, like you can start doing the work at any time. You just have to be willing, and I think that's like surrendering is important in that process.
yeah, it's never too late. It's never too late to change your ways. But I want to say, I want to touch on, you talked about extended family and relatives and setting boundaries. One thing I will say that I've learned from my parents, from observing them interact with people, because like I like to learn from other people's mistakes without having to make my own. One thing I will say that I've learned from my parents is to, um, when it comes to like access and the things that you're willing to do for people, is to, I don't want to say not give access to people that don't deserve access, but it's just to be mindful of, like, and this is something that my mom says: si tu sais que tu peux pas continuer quelque chose, ne commence pas.
Commencer,
Basically, which means if you know that you can't keep something up, don't start, or don't get people accustomed to a certain version of you, or don't do something that you might not be able to keep up, because it's going to create problems. And that goes in any relationship, whether it's like a husband and wife, a parent and a child, or even at work. It's like, if you know that you can't keep something up, like, don't start it, don't start doing it, because then if you are the person in the family that people know, like, oh, if I need money I can go to this person, then that's just gonna become your role in the family, and people are always going to be coming and asking you for money.
something that I learned observing as well is similar but not exactly the same. For me, it's like, don't overextend yourself. I think it
Hmm.
goes together in a sense, like si tu peux pas terminer, you're gonna end up having to overextend yourself if you can't finish it. But at the same time, I'm starting to get to this middle ground, right? Because okay, I feel like there's a lot that I had to figure out and learn on my own, even though like I was very supported. I'm very lucky. My family was always like supportive of me. But there's a lot that I had to like kind of carve out for myself. And sometimes, like we all have like juniors or like siblings and everybody like in your life that could depend on you for some of these things. And my knee jerk reaction very often is like, oh, why can't you figure it out? And recently I've been looking at that like more honestly and with more kindness. And I'm like, okay, just because I didn't have somebody to teach me how to, I don't know, like start using the bus doesn't mean that like I can't take the time to teach somebody. It's not going to make them unable to do it. It's just going to like that offer that help that I didn't receive. So I think I'm trying to strike a balance between offering help, but having strong enough boundaries to say, this is as much as I can do because I do want to help. I am not going to help past this line where I am now overextending and now there's resentment between us. And I think, I mean, people are not, yeah, people are not always ready to hear it, but I think if you have anybody that like is able to hear that and hear that communication, sometimes it can make your relationship even better because now you're not the person that refused to help even though she could a little bit because she couldn't do it all the way, but you're also not the person that's like helping but yet going around telling everybody that you're doing it or like complaining and being resentful about the fact that like you have to keep this up. You're just someone that's like, I got $2 I can pitch in, if do you want it? And if someone can respect you enough to be like, yeah, I'll take that, and then thank you, I think that can bring you closer.
Very well said. I have nothing else to add to that.
Enough said. We're getting a lot of enough said today. Because it's a tradition, you know, like everybody has a family. And I believe I am 100% sure that every family has their own special dynamic. So it's hard to find your place and hold your space. Gotta do
Yeah.
it.
Okay, let's talk about the spiritual family. Mark chapter 3, verses 33 to 35 say, and he answered them, he being Jesus, who are my mother and my brother? So I think that this was when Jesus was talking to the crowd he was teaching, and then some of his disciples or somebody came, and I think Mary or some of his family members I think were looking for him, like his mom and some of his siblings were looking for him, and so they came and they were like, oh Jesus, they looking for you. And so he goes, who are my mother and my brothers? And then he started looking at those who were sitting around him, and he said, here are my mother and my brothers, for whoever does the will of God, he is my brother and sister and mother. And that just makes me laugh because Jesus Jesus was funny.
Who that? Like anytime someone's trying to come talk to him seriously, he'll just use that as an opportunity. Like, teaching. Like, bro.
Yeah, I could just imagine the times, or like when they were traveling and he stayed back at the temple and they were looking for him when he was 12 for like a couple days, and then he's like, oh, why were you looking for me? Like, don't you know I'm supposed to be in my father's house about my father's business? Can you just imagine to saying that to your mom?
She's like, why did you make me cry for 2 days? And you're like, what do you mean? That's
And he's so serious too. Like, what do you mean? Don't you know that I'm supposed to be about my father's business?
Jesus was like, you don't understand. Do you not understand? I thought Gabriel came down and like cleared all of this up. One thing about Jesus, you know what I love? He was taking space. He was taking space. That's taking space. That's like being
What?
true to your experience. Like what? So,
But basically, in this, in these verses, what he's trying to say is that the most important family is God's kingdom, is those who are not just family by blood and biology, but also by obedience. Because he says, for whoever does the will of God, he is my brother and sister and mother. So doing the will of God is what makes you part of Jesus's family. And the next verse is Galatians chapter 6 verse 10. It says, so then as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are in the household of faith. So that means that, your church family is also family. Your love is also supposed to extend to fellow believers, and also to non-believers. I think that although there's a distinction, between those who are in the family of God and those who are not, but we're still supposed to extend the love of Christ to everyone, and hopefully, they do join Jesus's family, and then we can all be a big happy family together.
Yeah.
So that's the spiritual family. The spiritual family is probably the most important aspect of this episode, is joining God's family and the beauty of the gospel. If you don't get anything from this episode, what I would want for people to really understand is the beauty of the gospel, which is this: that through Jesus Christ we are adopted into a greater family, a royal family, where we are seen and known and loved perfectly. A lot of us don't have perfect families. I don't even think anybody human has a perfect family. Like, we all have our issues in our family. Sometimes you think, wow, my family's crazy, and then you hear family drama from some other family, and you're like,
Like,
oh wow. Like, maybe
crazy.
we're doing not so bad. Joining God's family is the most beautiful thing. If you grew up and you didn't have godly role models, just know that it's okay. Like, you can find those people in the church family. I'm not talking about like the church as a physical building. I'm talking about like the family of Christ. And so in the New Testament, Romans chapter 8 verses 14 to 17 say, for all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit Himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and fellow heirs with Christ, provided we suffer with Him, in order that we may also be glorified with Him. So, this is basically saying that by accepting Christ through Jesus Christ, you can call God your Father. You can cry out to Him as your Father, because that is when you receive the spirit of adoption as a son into the family of God. And when you become and son is just with a big S, so it's sons and daughters. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just males, it's everybody. And as a fellow heir, like, that means you're a prince and a
Yeah.
princess. You become royal, like the actual king of kings, like the actual God that created the universe. You become a part of His family. Like, doesn't that blow your mind? That's like, people, you gotta tell people, like, talk to me nice. Do you know who I am? I am the daughter of the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Like, you can talk to me any old kind of way. Come to me correct, okay?
I think that what it did the most for me is it really worked on like my self esteem and my self honoring. I think because I don't,
Mm-hmm.
for me, even when you were talking about like being a prince and a princess, I'm kind of like I'm shrinking it a little bit because I'm like, oh, I don't want a title. It's okay. Like I don't, and then I don't know. I just feel like understanding God's love for me as His daughter and how much of a good parent and a good girl dad He is, and all of the things that He's kind of like put into place for me to grow and flourish like a flower. It just kind of gave me the blueprint for watering myself, for honoring myself, for that put some respect on it. Mood, I was able to give that to myself of like respect yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
when something is not becoming of me, I know to be like to turn up my nose at it and be like, I don't do that because like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a child of God, I'm his daughter, and I'm just not gonna stoop that low. So I think it's really helpful with that. I think some people that exist on the more like maybe performative end of the spectrum, or similarly to when we were talking about parents having children for the wrong reasons, that want the glory of being an heir but not the responsibility. I think sometimes that's where some of the disillusion comes from, because you're like, oh, like I'm a child of God, I'm an heir, I'm supposed to inherit something, I'm leaving here with something. And then all of a sudden you get trials, tribulations that are meant to develop your character, that are gifts because you're gonna be fine, you're not gonna die. But like we don't take it as such because we're like, well, I'm not inheriting a fortune or a kingdom or a mansion, so why am I here?
Not maybe not on this side of heaven, but yeah, I mean you might, but
Yeah,
he does say that he has mentions. He's getting mentions ready for us, in heaven. So you might not get your mention over here, but ultimately you'll get one at some point. But I love that you touched about the responsibility that it is to be a child of God, because I've even had like some conversations with some of my family members that are non-believers, and they're like, well, I started praying, and like I don't understand why like I'm facing all these issues, all these trials and tribulations. Like I came to God because I wanted to like my life to be easy, and I'm like, bro.
was his own life easy when he came down here, or was it hard? Was it easy?
That
And he was
is the
fact.
exact opposite of what it looks like to be a child of God. An easy life, I don't want to like
Flesh.
scare, I, I
His
don't want to
toilet.
scare anybody that might not believe, that's looking at this or that's listening to it. But if your life is easy and you don't have any trials and tribulations and everything, like you don't have no issues, like everything is just la di da, like rosy, you might be a child of the devil. Because, and I'm saying this because listen, no, because because I'm not trying to be funny, but listen, because listen, like, and when I say the devil, not that like the devil created you, but like you might be in his hand, because if he's
Yeah.
not coming for you, that means you are not a threat to him. Like when you
Wow.
wake up in the morning, Satan should be going, ah, dang, she woke up again, he woke up again, because you're a problem, because you're a prayer warrior, because you
I
are
love that.
you're not just a cog in his machine. If you
Yeah.
don't have any trials or tribulations and everything is just la di da, and you don't have anything to pray for, I'm not saying that like the Christian life is a struggle life, because not everybody is out here struggling, but I'm just saying that like the devil is not going to bother attacking somebody that is already working for him. So, and I
Yeah.
know that it sounds funny, but really look at yourself, take an audit of your life, and ask yourself, like, ask yourself some questions. I'm just ask
I'm
yourself
still
some
not over
questions.
because the way that it hit me, I just was not thinking, about that.
A life in Christ is not a life of convenience. And I think that it can be a big misconception that people think that you talk about Christ and how you don't have to do anything to be saved, and you just have to be like Jesus, Jesus, and then it's over. Yeah, but you still have to walk out your salvation with fear and trembling. I'm not saying that there's anything that you can do, any work that you can do to be saved, right? Yes, it's only by grace through faith that we are saved, but that doesn't mean that you can just do whatever and not have to have any consequences for your actions or for the way that you live your
Conse-
life.
Yeah, no, you're definitely gonna get consequences. Like
Yeah.
that, you're gonna have to reap. What is, I think it's Tiffany Buckner that's always saying like you're not in warfare, you're a reaper. Every time she says that, I crack up because a lot of what people will call warfare, a lot of what people will like complain about is actually reaping. And that was really hard for me to come to be humble about. Because I'd be like, I didn't do anything. I'm a good person. I treat people well. Why is stuff happening to me? And it's like, are you
Good
making good
person. What is a
choices?
good
What
person?
is that? Like, are you making good choices? Are you listening to the Lord? Are you not taking things into your own hands? Are you obeying? Like, are you grateful? Are you content? Like all of these things that you can do, you have control over to impact how things are going. So I don't want to put the blame back on people for going through something, but I think going through something is part of life. I think, granted, I'm not aching right now, so I can say that the ache is good for the soul to some degree. Um, and yeah, I think without that, I don't know how you develop and grow.
What is it? The gym bro saying, no pain, no
No
gain.
pain, no gain. No pain, no gain.
Yeah, don't think that a life in Christ is just a life of la 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 bop bop bop. I mean, yeah, it kind of, yeah, you la 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 bop 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 wherever the Lord leads you, but it's also war. Like, you are now enlisted in the army of the Lord, and what do armies do? They fight wars.
You're now one of my elite employees. I just need to quit it today. I just need to quit it today. My chronically online is showing so bad. It's really not.
Oh
Um,
yeah, you have now become a elite employee of the Lord, and you gonna have some work to do, some elite work.
work to do. And also manners, even if you don't have to work for your salvation, and maybe that's just like how I was raised, but like you're just gonna sit on your butt. Like you're not gonna get up and help, like you're not gonna do the dishes or like help clean. I don't know, like do something.
Right, right.
Yeah, the manners.
Whatever whatever your role is in the family, whether you are a parent, a child, or a sibling, or a spiritual mentor, a teacher, just know that your actions have implications. They have lifelong spiritual consequences. So speak life and love like Jesus, love sacrificially.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Like sense of sacrifice. And I think if there's one like like underlying message that I think I'm taking away from the conversation, it's really I don't have to overthink too much. I think the word is already a really great blueprint for how I can be intentional about myself and how to be a child of God. And I think from that, everything else like spools out how I can be a good parent, how I can be a good family member, how I can be. So I think the verse that I get the most often is that Galatians verse about the fruits of the spirit. Like I said, I don't know the specific addresses of things, but I know what it says. And I think using that as kind of like my railing in life to assess, okay, what can I be working on in this moment? I think it's been a great source of impact, a great source of confidence, of excellence in my life, in my relationships. And again, I mean, the number one indicator for quality of life and life satisfaction is the quality of your relationships. And most likely, your primary relationships are with your family. Family is where you feel like you belong. Family impacts your behavior. It impacts how you show up in the world, and it impacts even your like reflection about what you want to do. So, I think keeping that thing on you is key in that process as well. I mean, that thing, not anything else. All right, soldiers. Thanks for holding space for us today.
If this was helpful for you, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you're watching us on YouTube, join the army, enlist your friends, and let's keep building each other up. Until next time, stay rooted in the Word.
Keep sharpening your swords.